Okay,
we can go. Yeah.
cool. I love your concept. I love your business model. I'm looking forward to getting into it. But before we do,
Sure.
I want to know this.
Hmm.
5 years ago, this pandemic changed everything for all of us, every
Yes.
facet of our lives.
Mhm.
How did you survive it, and how did it change the way that you approach business and life today?
Yeah. Actually, for us, the pandemic was a net positive. It created so much chaos in the supply chain that the service, the product that we offer was so needed. Everything was so discombobulated and so upside down. So that unfortunate period of time was a very large net positive. And so what we did is we really responded. I had people, we were viewed as essential services, people stepping up and working and staying at facilities in the early days of this to make sure that our customers were taken care of. So for us, it was really that watershed moment that said what we do is important and it makes an impact. And it really now subsequently has helped us to win those hearts and minds of those customers who know that we're going to have their back.
It is interesting during that time how many services were essential and
Hmm.
adapted to that new way of living, because it
Right.
was a big deal at the time. But also, you had to have the foresight to grab onto that and know that it was opportune.
Yeah, I think it was just we were already so ingrained in our customer supply chain that we knew fundamentally that that chaos was going to need a response from us. So our business from kind of the first mile to I'll call it the second to last mile. So not the Amazon guys that deliver packages to my house 4 times a day and those sorts of things, but everything before that, we're in it somewhere. So
Yeah.
we're helping people in some facet of that. And so just like the tariff shocks and the pandemic, when there are disruptions to that natural flow of things, which inevitably happen time and time again, we've had to rise to the occasion and respond. And so this was just sort of on steroids. And so that's why I think it worked.
So the interesting thing about the way entrepreneurs work, I mean, it's like when failure is almost seen is not something that's welcome, but it's a huge learning moment. It allows you to adapt. And my setup of this question is this. When we grow up and we're in grade school, we get all of the training for, in tornado in the Midwest, fire, floods, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Did you get any kind of like preparation for a disaster that could potentially affect you as an entrepreneur that made you stronger for that moment?
I guess what I always harken back to and why I'm in this business is I was a customer first.
Okay.
So I was running or responsible for a warehouse operation for a business that probably did call it $10 million a year, a little family owned business. But they imported all these products from Asia that went into the perimeter of a Walmart grocery store back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So that Walmart's boom of the supercenter. So we would literally send in 12 containers worth of product to every new Walmart supercenter that opened back in those days. And so, in this little bitty business with a warehouse that was way too small, we were getting all these containers and everything was discombobulated, and we weren't really good at importing. And I was renting 150 trailers from a guy that's still a competitor of mine in greater Cincinnati. So, I guess my lesson is I lived through the chaos of that.
Yeah.
And so the epiphany for me was looking out my window one night and seeing 150 trailers and thinking, who's that guy? And what does he do? And I just went on this journey and found that that was a highly fragmented portion of the business. Everyone loves the rent trailers to go over the road, brand new and shiny, those sorts of things, the lease guys, but nobody was really filling this niche, but a bunch of mom and pops. And so through my experience with private equity, I kind of knew how the financial models work. I saw an opportunity to roll those things up and to consolidate that into more of a national and now for us, an international player because we're in Canada, we're in Mexico. So I think that's the lesson I learned probably.
So I'm curious, as a business owner, a CEO,
Hmm.
you mentioned you were in the warehouse. You were on the bottom floor of
Hmm.
of this operation. Do you ever think, because I think sometimes employees feel like CEOs and the heads of companies lose track and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They aren't tapped into what they're living every day. Is that
Yeah.
something that's central for you to stay focused on, to make sure that you have a lot going on. You're a marionette of this company, but you
Mhm.
also have to keep in touch with that mentality that you had that exists in all of the employees. Are you cognizant of that? Is that something you work on?
Yeah, so a couple things. Foundationally, when you come to work for us, I meet with you at some point in that first 30 or 60 days, and I literally give you my personal cell phone number. So every employee in this company, all 300 of them, has the same phone number that my wife, my mother, my children call me on. And I really try to empower them to say, look, you can call me. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to ask you one, did you talk to your direct supervisor? And what was the result of that? Because we gotta allow for the chain of command. That's the only way we're going to scale. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with me, and so I start there. A couple times a year, we do employee engagement surveys. So we use the Buckingham or the Q12 questions from the Gallup folks. But the most valuable part of that's important. Those measures, we have three open-ended questions. What's the silliest thing we're doing as a company? What's the single best idea you have to improve the company? And why do you work at Wow? We take all of that feedback and we address every one of those comments in some form or fashion. We're either addressing them in our quarterly state of the business meetings where I personally say, hey, I got this feedback. Here's what I'm thinking. This is the way I see it. We work it into our employee newsletter or within the social channels of our HR management system. So I really try to drive towards ownership, transparency, and responding. If I get feedback, they need to know that they're heard, and that maybe we don't do it exactly the way they think it should be done, but we've listened. And so that's sort of how I ground myself in those sorts of things.
So you're a busy man running the company, but I want to know, if I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day
Mm-hmm.
and the kid in the back of the room wants to know exactly what you do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
how would you explain your job to them?
Wow. How would I explain my job? So each morning when I start my day, I get everybody's homework from the day before, and I look at their homework and I see how they did their lessons. Where were we successful, and where do we need to maybe revisit some topics and have some conversations? And then we go about our day having those sorts of experiences, whether it's through people who work for me or me myself, talking to folks and having human interactions with, here's what we did yesterday, here's what we need to do for tomorrow. And all of that's really um, based on everything we've written on the blackboard at the front of the class as our core things that are important. I'm trying to think about how to put this in a 12-year-old's language and not use the business terms of strategy and all that sort of stuff. But we just basically have some fundamental rules of how we operate. These are the rules of how we make our customers happy. We look at the prior day, do we make our customers happy? And then we think about, okay, what do we have to do then in the next day, the next week, the next quarter to get a better score on that homework?
So when you were 12 years old and you were in that seat, what was your dream job? What did you want to do when you grew up?
Oh, wow. I probably wanted to be a rock star, and I have no musical talent whatsoever, but that was the dream. I was going to have a band. And I have a guitar collecting dust in my house that I can't play worth a darn. Uh, so that was probably it. It was probably that, yeah, I'd probably say that was it.
What was the first concert that you saw that blew you away when you were a kid?
Wow. So the first concert didn't blow me away, but the first concert my mom took me to was Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton.
Oh,
So
wow.
I got to see some entertainers.
That's great, man. That would be a great show.
It was a great show. It was a great show. But from there, it's such an eclectic group. So the first experience with rap at Run DMC and the Beastie Boys,
Wow.
then that led to then you see Motley Crue and Ozzy Osbourne and all
Yep.
those guys, all the way up to seeing Yo Yo Ma. So
Wow, that's great. I saw Motley Crue when I was 13. My parents dropped me off at Kemper Arena. I don't know why they did it, but
Yep.
that was one of the weirdest things I'd ever seen. They were shooting bottle rockets. Of course, the girls were all frivolous, and just like Nikki Sixx was tripping the sound guy who was helping him out. I was like, it's chaos in here. Pyrotechnics. It was wild, man.
I saw them open for Ozzy Osbourne. And
Wow.
yeah, no, it was crazy. And I had the same thing, except my parents entrusted me to my fun uncle, to take me and a buddy. And we were in the eighth grade. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience.
Yeah, for sure. Take me back to your childhood. What were
Yeah.
where you were born and raised, and what were these foundational elements, the seeds that
Yeah.
were planted into you that allowed you to become a CEO?
Yeah. That's a probably a deeply personal question. So yeah. Uh, Raised by a teenage mom when it wasn't an MTV TV show, and through a lot of interesting experiences in that. But I tell you, the thing that really was foundational to me was that early responsibility. So being a latchkey kid back in the day, coming home from school and there's nobody there, and you have responsibilities and things that you have to take care of. And so that to me is the one thing that I think is really molded me, because through my career, I haven't always looked back and appreciated that. But now in the role that I'm in a lot of ways, I have a lot of latchkey kids. I have 37 locations between Montreal, Mexico, and Monterey, or Monterey, Mexico, and Montreal and Quebec. And I count on them every day to show up and do the things that need to be done. And I can't be there with every one of them. So I think that would probably be the most connected experience, if you will.
Who was that inspirational force, that hero in your life that has allowed you to evolve into who you are today?
It's a team of people, quite honestly. One, I think it starts with my mother and watching her struggle and the things she did as a single mom, and just kind of making it happen and getting me to this point. Um, but really, along the way in my career, so many people that have taken a knucklehead like me, the guy that was probably more the bull in the china shop and lacked the emotional intelligence early in my career, and had patience and led by example. And probably some of the most formative experiences, like my time at Arthur Anderson. So I was there rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic as that thing was going down. But the partners that I worked for, the community that was, it ended up being like a death in the family as that all sort of collapsed. But still to this day, I look back, I have connections with those guys that I can call on as mentors, and so those guys were very, very impactful. And then I would say, so that's guys, names Dave Cowsey, Greg Greenwood, those sort of guys, Mike Spurlock. And then as I started working through my private equity experience, the guy that gave me my first chance as a CFO in private equity, Tom Minnick, again, a very patient man, because back in the day, and I look back on it and cringe a bit, that I was, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And while I still have a lot of that in me, it's that emotional intelligence and that balance of not everybody moves in the same ways.
So I'm going to go back to Motley Crue real quick. I remember seeing
Yeah,
a documentary on
yeah,
kind of the Sunset Strip and that whole heavy metal thing. And
yeah.
there was a gal that was at the Whiskey A Go Go, an owner, and she said, I remember the first time Nikki Six came up to the door and it was locked. It was the middle of the day, and he's just shaking on the door. The chains are rattling. And she's like, what do you want? And he's like, hey, my name's Nikki. I got a band. We want to play here. And the reason why I bring this up is in
Hmm.
the landscape of entrepreneurs and CEOs, we love the rags to riches, the
Hmm.
beginnings, and how they rose to become titans. What's your favorite story of an entrepreneur or CEO? And maybe somebody you would love to meet that would help you on your journey?
I've never been asked that question. um, I think currently the thing I'm obsessed with is the guys at Liquid Death
Yeah.
and what they've built.
Uh-huh.
So my daughter gave me a master class subscription for Christmas last year, and I've just been tearing through that. And one that just blew me away was not a very long piece, but where they talked about building that and their approach to branding and so forth. I would love to spend time with those guys and
Yeah.
and just really tap into where does that come from? Where did
Yeah.
you where did you get that I don't know, that mindset? And because it's so impactful. And I think in today's world, the thing with AI and just the constant noise in our lives, you have to find, in order to build your brand and to bring awareness to markets that don't even know you're a solution, which is something we fight with. How do you get that attention?
Yeah. There is a company called Happy Dad, and they make a beer that's kind of,
Mhm.
have you heard of it?
I've heard the name. Yeah, I'm
y-
not
y-
familiar with it, but
it's kind of like Liquid Death. It's like these
hmm
guys, these millennials, these younger people that just tapped in. I think Logan Paul and maybe somebody else kind of got in there, but it's a
sure.
more of a seltzer base, a little bit healthier, and I think
hmm
it actually gives you energy too. It's one of those things. Anyways, when those things happen and they just blow up overnight like Mr. Beast,
Yeah.
it's amazing to
hmm
see how they build their empire and the way they do it. It's quite
hmm
fascinating. So let me ask you this. I want to tap into the motor that makes you go every day. What gets you up every day to do this work? Because it's obviously difficult. You're juggling 300 souls. You have your soul, you have your family, you have all of these things that are outside of that. How do you do that? What is your motivation every day to do it the best you can?
When we started this business, I actually worked at the very first site. So I would leave my home here in greater Cincinnati and go to Evansville, Indiana. And I was in the hotel from kind of Sunday to Thursday and boots on the ground with the team in the shop, just kind of building the foundation of this thing. And I still have that passion, that need to create something bigger for all of those people. I mean, I talk about my guys in Evansville; they're my day ones. I mean, I still talk to Moselle, the painter in Evansville, that paints our trailers and has been doing it for probably 20 years now at this point. Um, those people mean so much to me, and so I want to build something that goes beyond me. This isn't for my glory or anything like that. It's I want to build a sustainable growing organization so that all of those people on the front line, if they want to be something else in our organization, the opportunity exists, and I want them to share in the reward. So we actually put in place a gain sharing. We're owned by private equity. So we've already been sold once and we'll be sold again. And typically that comes with stock option plans and different things like that for a lot of the key managers. We actually have that incentive throughout the entire organization. So everyone in the organization will benefit the next time the business is sold. They're accruing reward for that. And I'm very, very proud of that. That means something.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into that latchkey kid version of you, and you
Mhm.
could give that young version you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated.
Yep.
What advice would you impart on that young mind?
Yeah. Um, the failure and the hardship that you're going to experience is going to serve you well down the road. You're going to look back and think about those things and realize that none of it was terminal, that those are lessons you potentially could have avoided if you'd been a little smarter, probably. but you're okay for it. You've survived, and I think my 12-year-old self would look at me now and go, "Huh, not bad."
That's pretty sage advice. So let me ask you this. We kind of touched on the concert part, but if you were to
hmm
walk up to all of the employees you've ever had, all of the clients, everyone that knows you in a business sense, and you can go to a podium and tell them one fun story about you, jumping out of an airplane, a wonderful trip, journey, a place that you went to,
hmm
something that might humanize you a little bit. What would be a fun story you would tell that room?
Wow. You are asking some good and deep questions. There's a therapeutic side to this
Right.
experience. And I'm stalling because I'm not that exciting. I don't jump out of airplanes. I don't do a lot of those things. It's funny, my CFO was joking the other day. He's like, when we started this, I used to try to time my vacations with your vacation because I thought that was a good time to take some time off, but you don't take vacations. So, um, quite honestly, my day to day is being human. I mean, we get on a weekly call with all my locations, and the first few minutes of it, they're usually busting my chops. I got a guy that teases me about the size of my head and jokes about different things like that, and I try to really stay humble and approachable, and so I don't think anybody in that room would feel like they didn't know me or needed some story to connect. again, I hand out my cell phone number to every
Yeah,
employee. So, I mean, it's my LinkedIn content. Half the time I'm kind of acknowledging and poking fun at myself. So yeah, I don't know that there's this aha or would be
sure.
this real light bulb moment because I try to live daily in that sort of transparency.
So, of everything you've accomplished in life,
Mhm.
everything you've evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
My children right now are starting that adulting cycle,
Yeah.
and seeing them succeed and spread their wings and really do their own thing. Yeah, that's it.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends,
Mhm.
all of your clients, all of your employees, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I would say that I'm a flawed human being that doesn't have all the answers. That it is a constant journey to get better and to learn. Um, I don't have it all figured out.
I dig it. So, if anyone wants to reach out, they want to learn more about your business
Yeah.
model, questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, it's all on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
Jonathan Brooks on LinkedIn. That's sort of the only social I really do because that I think ties in who I am and what we're trying to build here. So would love to engage with anybody that wants to be a part of that. This has been an awesome experience. I'm telling you, it's usually you get on, you tell the story about the business. All man, you have challenged me with some of these questions. So thank you for that experience.
Well, I got a good vibe early on, so I was like, we're gonna get in here and do it the right way. So you were wonderful, man. Thank you so much.